Two of the world's greatest superpowers, the mighty British Empire and the young United States, are on the brink of all-out war. Warships with heavy cannons are pointing at each other. Hundreds of soldiers are dug in with rifles ready. One spark and it could trigger a massive conflict that changes the world. The cause of this deadly standoff? A single hungry pig that got caught stealing potatoes and paid with its life. Yes, this actually happened. Welcome to the Pig War of 1859, also known as the Pig and Potato War, the most ridiculous near war in history, where the only casualty was one unfortunate swine. If you love wild true history stories that sound like they were written for a comedy movie, hit like right now, and let's uncover how bacon almost caused World War Zero. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're all about digging up the craziest, funniest, and most unbelievable real events from the past that your history teacher definitely skipped. If you're new here, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Drop a comment below. What's the most ridiculous reason you've ever heard for a fight or argument? Bonus points if it involved food or animals. All right, let's travel back to 1859 in the beautiful but disputed San Juan Islands. After the War of 1812, Britain and the US were trying to avoid another costly conflict. In 1846, they signed the Oregon Treaty, which set the border along the 49th parallel from the Rockies to the Pacific. But there was one messy detail: the San Juan Islands, sitting in the Salish Sea between what is now Washington State and Vancouver Island, then part of British Columbia. The treaty said the border would run through the middle of the channel, separating the mainland from Vancouver Island. Problem: there were two possible channels: Haro Strait, favoured by the Americans, and Rosario Strait, favoured by the British. The islands sat smack in the middle. Both sides claimed them. American settlers, many lured by the Donation Land Claim Act of 1850, started moving in, clearing land, planting potatoes, and raising animals. On the British side, the powerful Hudson's Bay Company operated a large sheep farm called Bellevue on the island. The manager was Charles Griffin, an Irish-born employee who also raised livestock, including several pigs that he let roam freely across the island. Tensions had been simmering for years. Americans called the British trespassers, and the Hudson's Bay Company a monopoly. The British viewed the American farmers as illegal squatters. Local disputes were common, over land, taxes, and yes, wandering animals destroying crops. Then, on June 15th, 1859, things boiled over. 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. The incident. The pig's fate. 27-year-old American farmer Lyman Cutler, sometimes spelled Cutler, originally from Kentucky, stepped out of his cabin to check his potato garden. This wasn't the first time trouble had visited. Griffin's pigs had been raiding his crops repeatedly, gobbling up valuable seed potatoes. Cutler spotted one large boar happily rooting around and destroying his patch. Frustrated beyond belief, he grabbed his gun and fired. Bang! One dead pig. Cutler immediately felt a pang of regret. He walked over to Charles Griffin and confessed. He even offered $10 as compensation, about $360 in today's money. A fair price for a pig back then. But Griffin was furious. He demanded $100, roughly $3,600 today, calling it one of his prize animals. According to one popular, though possibly made-up story, Cutler snapped, "It was eating my potatoes." Griffin supposedly shot back, "It is up to you to keep your potatoes out of my pig." When British authorities got involved, they threatened to arrest Cutler for the murder of the pig and even talked about evicting all American settlers as trespassers. The American farmers panicked and sent a delegation begging for military protection from the US Army. Escalation. Troops arrive. Enter Brigadier General William S. Harney, the hot-headed, very anti-British commander of the Department of Oregon. He saw this as a chance to assert American dominance. Harney ordered Captain George Pickett, yes, the same George Pickett who would later become famous, or infamous, for Pickett's charge at the Battle of Gettysburg in the Civil War, to take action. On July 27, 1859, Pickett landed with about 66 soldiers of the 9th Infantry Regiment aboard the USS Massachusetts. They set up camp near the Hudson's Bay Company wharf on Griffin Bay and raised the American flag. Pickett boldly declared the islands American territory and warned the British not to land. The British governor of Vancouver Island, James Douglas, was outraged. He ordered Royal Navy Captain Geoffrey Hornby to remove the Americans by force. Soon British warships started arriving. The HMS's Satellite, HMS Tribune, and Oceanother. Others. Cannons were pointed directly at the small American camp. More American reinforcements poured in. By the peak, around 461 American troops with 14 cannons dug in on the south of the island, American camp. On the British side, 5 warships carrying over 2,000 men and dozens of heavy guns offshore, plus Royal Marines ready to land. The two forces were staring each other down across a narrow stretch of water. One accidental shot could have sparked a full-scale war between the US and Britain, possibly dragging in other powers and changing history forever. The standoff and peaceful absurdity. But here's where it gets wonderfully ridiculous. The senior British naval commander, Rear Admiral Robert Lambert Baines, a veteran of the War of 1812, arrived and took one look at the situation. He was appalled. He reportedly told Governor Douglas, "I am not going to involve two great nations in a war over a squabble about a pig." Both sides received strict orders from their governments, do not fire first. So instead of battling, they basically threw a long, awkward block party. British and American officers visited each other's camps. They shared meals, played games, drank whiskey, smoked cigars, and even attended church services together aboard British ships. Tourists from Victoria came on excursion boats just to watch the spectacle. The soldiers on both sides got along surprisingly well. During the long occupation, they declared truces at Christmas for joint feasts. The British eventually set up their own camp on the north end of the island, English camp, complete with formal gardens and a cricket field. The Americans stayed in the south. They lived side by side for over 12 years with almost no hostility. Of course, there were some non-battle casualties during this time. A handful of soldiers died from disease, accidents, drowning, or even the occasional knife fight in downtime. But 0 deaths from actual combat. The only confirmed casualty of the entire pig war. That one potato-stealing pig. Resolution and legacy. Back in Washington and London, leaders were horrified that a pig had nearly caused another war. They quickly agreed to a joint military occupation, while diplomats sorted it out. The dispute dragged on because of bigger issues like the American Civil War and other international crises. Finally, in 1871, both countries asked Kaiser Wilhelm I of Germany to act as an impartial arbitrator. On October 21, 1872, he ruled in favour of the United States, choosing the Haro Strait as the border. The San Juan Islands officially became American territory, and they still are today, part of Washington state. The last British troops left English camp on November 25, 1872. The final American soldiers departed by July 1874. Today you can visit San Juan Island National Historical Park, where both American camp and English camp are preserved. There's even an annual pig war celebration, with reenactments, pig-themed events, and plenty of laughs. End. Conclusion. So there you have it. The war started by one thieving pig that ended with 0 human battle deaths, a peaceful resolution, and a whole lot of awkward diplomacy. It proves that sometimes the dumbest disputes can bring out the best in people, or at least prevent the worst. What do you think? Was the pig the true villain? Or should Lyman Cutler have just built a better fence? Could this have actually sparked a real war? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this deeper dive into one of history's silliest moments, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe for more entertaining true stories every week, and tell me in the comments what crazy historical event I should cover next. Maybe another bloodless war or something even weirder. Thanks for watching, stay curious, laugh at the absurdity of life, and I'll see you in the next one.